Hi there, my name is Rachel Giles. I'm a researcher in the Rochman lab at the University of Toronto in Toronto, Canada. I'm also a part of the U of T trash team, which is an outreach branch of the Rochman lab that gets involved in schools and in the community doing science outreach and science communication. So today we're going to be talking about plastic pollution, what it is and what it is not, and where plastic pollution comes from, and all the different things that you can do to reduce plastic pollution in your community, in your country, and globally. So if you were to Google images of plastic pollution, these are some of the images that you would see. We see turtles tangled up in fish nets, or birds with bags around their necks, or even animals that have ingested or eaten plastic. And so we know that animals and other parts of the environment are interacting with plastic because it's everywhere. We find it in the oceans, we find it in the rivers, we find it on the land. And because of this, plastic pollution has earned the interest of the public. And so people are interested in it, they want to learn more about it, and they're also upset about it. So if you look at this photo in the bottom left of the screen, that's a picture of a sperm whale. It's actually an artistic installation. So it's created by Greenpeace. And what they've done is created a whale out of plastic because they found a sperm whale with lots of plastic in its stomach that had died. And so this is one example of the ways that the public is trying to draw attention to the issue of plastic pollution. Through scientific research, we found that plastic in all of its forms, both large and small, is interacting with over 800 species. So that can be anything from entanglement, like we saw with the turtle, to ingestion, like we saw with the whale, or even making it part of their habitat, like building their nest with pieces of plastic in it. When we're talking about microplastics, those are things that are smaller than 5 millimeters. We know through scientific research that over 220 species are ingesting or eating microplastics. In our lab, the Rochman lab, we're investigating a number of other species found in many habitats, including the Arctic, the ocean, as well as the Great Lakes. And so that number, and both of these numbers, are likely to grow as we continue to do scientific research. Where does plastic pollution come from? So I'm going to talk mostly about two of the main ways that we have plastic entering our environment or ecosystems. The first is through lost fishing gear. So when fishing boats go out to catch fish or other types of seafood, they might lose their nets or their buoys or their gloves. And so because there's no incentive for them to try and fetch them after they've been lost, these fishing nets often get lost in the ocean and will either sink to the bottom of the ocean, as you can see in the top left picture, or they'll wind up entangled on parts of the environment or in fish, like you can see in the bottom left photo. So that's one type of way that plastic enters our environment. Another way is through single-use plastics. So if we're consuming a bottle of water or we go to a takeout restaurant, there's lots of items that we use and only use once that are made of plastic. Even if we dispose of it properly, whether it goes in the trash bin or the recycling bin, sometimes these things leak into the environment. So our trash bin might tip over and then the wind or the rain blows it into a river or a nearby stream or lake. Or sometimes people just deliberately litter and toss these items onto the ground where they eventually end up in the environment. So these are some of the two most common types of plastics or sources of plastic to the environment, but there's also a number of others. So for example, when we're washing our clothes, there's tiny fibers that are shed from our clothing. These are called microfibers, and they can be plastic or non-plastic. And these shed into our environment and are washed into our rivers and streams and lakes through our washer effluent. When we're riding our cars or riding bikes, our tires rub against the roads and those create small bits of rubber called tire dust or tire particles. And when industries are creating plastic products, they purchase tiny plastic pellets that they melt in and then form into larger products. And these tiny pellets can also escape into the environment. So as you can see, there's a number of ways that plastics can enter the environment, and many of them involve us as consumers. So you may be wondering, what can I do to help reduce plastic pollution in my neighborhood, in my home, and also globally? Well, the first would be to lead a cleanup in your area. So if you go to the shoreline cleanup, you can sign up to do a cleanup in your school or in your neighborhood. And in addition to cleaning up waste in your neighborhood and picking up trash, you're also collecting data that can be used by scientists to continue research on plastic pollution. In your homes and in your schools, you can make zero waste choices. So refuse single-use items like straws or cutlery or bottled beverages. And in your homes, you can do the same. Looking into a broader community, you can learn about how your city or town manages waste and what items you can actually dispose of or recycle in order to make better and more informed decisions about what you're purchasing and how you're disposing of it. Once you've learned all of these things, and you can share also what you've learned today in this presentation, share it with others to spread awareness and also help share different ways that you have a more zero waste lifestyle or make better informed decisions. And lastly, share what you've learned and share that you think this is important to your local government. So tell them that this is an issue that you care about. Tell them that you'd like to see better local management strategies, because your letter might represent the voices of you among hundreds or even thousands of other people who care about this issue as well. I've put in a Twitter handle here of the U of G trash team. That's the outreach team that I'm a part of. So if you want more tips on upcoming events in Toronto or on how we address the issue of plastic pollution, both from a research and an outreach side, you can follow us on Twitter to get more updates about that. Thanks, everyone.